Let's talk about the 5 reasons why small businesses fail. We're looking 90% of small businesses that are startups fail in the first 5 years. Are you going to be the top 10%? Because if you're not, you're going to end up being a failure. Look, this is a very challenging thing to do a startup. So I know a lot of you watching this own your own business. You're doing less than 5 to 10 million dollars in revenue. You're technically still a startup. I mean, I look at a startup and I would run my businesses. Remember, I've done 37 startups. I guess I'll take a step back here for a second. I'm going to give you all 5 of these things that cause small businesses to fail. I'm going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then I'm going to give you 2 bonuses. But before I do that, I kind of just want to make sure you know who I am. I'm Bill Faeth, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 37 startups, all bootstrapped, no venture funding, no hedge funds, all out of my own pocket. And I've had plenty of partnerships along that way. I've had plenty of mentorships along that way, but every one of these was a bootstrap startup. And I'll share a little secret with you. Prior to getting into real estate investing, I had never made more than $100,000 investment. Actually, it was about $70,000 was my largest investment to start up a company. So if you're thinking about starting up, you can do this with little to no money. Almost every startup that I've done out of those 37, with the exception of my restaurant business, when I got into the ground transportation business. So I owned Wild Bill's Texas Smokehouse back in Taft, California, suburb outside of, not even a suburb, just outside of Bakersfield, California. And I grew that business with my wife. One of the first businesses we did together, we've been married for 26 years. We started this right before we got married. So it's been almost 27 years. And within 18 months, had built it up to 6 locations and exited because, little secret, we hated the restaurant business. It's the second hardest business that I've ever been in. The second hardest. Food cost, employees, all this type of stuff. Employees stealing your fucking food. It was horrible. So we wanted to get out of it. And I vowed I would never get back into the restaurant business. Secret number 2, I do want to get back in the restaurant business. Big ass burritos. Big ass burritos. Have you ever been to UC Santa Barbara, Isla Vista? They have these ginormous burritos. There's so many places that are underserved in the United States for being able to get a nice ginormous burrito, especially when you have a college like UC Santa Barbara or any other colleges. Could be a community college, any place that younger generation of kids are hanging out, and you can get like a nice big ass burrito for under $10 and that's good, you can sell the shit out of it. But one of the mistakes, and this is not number 5, this is going to be bonus number 3, I'm going to lead off with it, that most of us make when we start a business is we think about things that we really like. Like, I love burritos, but what happened is my friend Rob Thompson went to UC Santa Barbara. I went to UCLA, plenty of food around UCLA. Weren't many options around UC Santa Barbara except for what was in IV, Isla Vista. And these burritos were amazing. They're on like 16-inch tortillas. But when I would go to other universities, when I was traveling, playing golf and a college golf coach and that type of stuff, Stanford, Arizona State, Yale, Western Florida, all of these places, I didn't see these staples that were there. So I saw the need. I was not, and I am not today, interested in starting a business because I like burritos. A lot of people that get into the restaurant business start in the restaurant business because they like the food that they're making. I do like burritos, but I would have to learn from the best how to cook them. And that's where the mentorship comes in, folks. One of the number one things, and this actually is not on my list either, so I'm going to give you a lot of shit even before I jump into my top 5, is that you don't seek out a mentor. And what's really important about that, like when I look at the restaurant business, my CPA, Jeff Stewart, introduced me to Greg and Vivian Arts. I had no restaurant experience. And we went to Ojai, California, found a great barbecue place there. I flew to Odessa, Midland, Texas. I ended up going to Austin, Texas, found this guy that was great. I literally paid him $5,000 to spend a week with him and get access to his recipes, signed a non-compete that I wouldn't use his recipes or sell them anywhere within 500 miles of Austin, Texas. Well, I went back to Bakersfield, California, went to Taft and opened Wild Bill's Texas Smokehouse, and we had an incredible barbecue because I sought out a guy that had way more experience than me. He'd been way successful. And most importantly, I probably tasted no less than 50, maybe 70 different places in the West Texas area all the way to Austin. And I found what I thought was the best. And he just happened to agree to be able to mentor me. So one of the things that we do as small business owners and doing startups is we don't seek out mentors. And I can tell you that I've had mentors in almost every one of my businesses, even in real estate investing, which is my primary focus today. I had mentors that helped me as I got started. And I started with a duplex, got into commercial and then industrial. And then I was doing long-term residential and multifamily. And now primarily short-term rentals. And it's really important that we have a mentor because look, those people have already made all the mistakes that we've made. But that kind of leads me to wanting to jump in. And what's interesting is I've had a lot of businesses that have been on the brink of failure. And you know what, we've been in a little bit of challenging economic times post COVID. I think we could see some more economic downturn into the future as well. And that means that we need to be super lean. Super lean. That's number one. The number one problem with small businesses is lack of cash flow. And there's a lot of things that contribute to lack of cash flow. Number one is the entrepreneur, or probably not even an entrepreneur if you're doing your first business, is that you start by creating a lifestyle business and you haven't really planned in advance. You really don't know what cash flow, how you're going to manage cash flow. You don't know what your price point, you haven't tested price elasticity, and you just launch the business and figure out, I'm going to figure it out as I go. And I'm going to try to make money doing my favorite thing. And you've turned the hobby into your business. That's the fucking worst, because now you've taken something you absolutely love. You have no clue how you're going to monetize it, and you turn it into a business. So you really need to focus. One of the most important reports that I would ever get in my businesses are a cash flow report. And I'll let you in on another secret. I never really knew how to do any of this stuff, probably till I was 5, 6, 7 businesses in. And I was getting taught by my partners, by my mentors as I went along the way. Because really my very first business was selling t-shirts out of the back of my mom's car. And then my second legitimate business was Bell Aqua Bikinis, where I was drop shipping Brazilian bikinis, sarongs, cover-ups, all that type of stuff in AOL chat rooms and on Netscape back in 1992, 93. Then I made enough money after testing the concept to see that it would work. I'd made enough money playing professional golf to where I could go and buy or really pay to have somebody build my first e-commerce website. Now, I hope you're sitting down. If you're not, sit down or pause this real quick. Sit down, and I'm going to tell you how much it cost me to build my first e-com website so I could drop ship literally about 25 years before anybody else was doing this. It cost me almost $180,000 and took about 5 to 6 months. I think it was almost 6 months before they could complete it. Think about that. Today, I can literally go to Shopify.com, put in $50, add in a couple of plugins, and I can be up and running in less than 24 hours and having products to be able to sell online, have a well-optimized e-commerce website. It was just completely different back then. So if you kind of read between the tea leaves there, I tested product, selling it in AOL chat rooms, selling it on Netscape back in the day, saw that there was a viable business, tested some pricing elasticity, which is going to dramatically affect my cash flow. And then I went and I made the investment into the e-commerce website. And I started having the family that I'd met staying in their house, actually about 20 miles outside of Sao Paulo, Brazil, when I was playing the South American PGA Tour. They just started drop shipping for me. And I took inventory as well, but it was a combination of drop shipping and also a quick ship that we had in the States. The other thing is I really was able to test. Number two is market need. Is your business solving a problem? Is there enough demand for you in that business to grow a legitimate business? And here's what I'm gonna tell you. You don't have a legitimate business until you've broken $1 million in revenue and you have at least a 25% margin. So if you have a $700,000 business at a 20% margin, you've got a nice $140,000, $150,000 a year job. You don't have a fucking business. And it took me a while to realize that selling t-shirts, I wasn't making enough money to quantify that, right? When I started doing this, I got up to about 800,000, and then we put some acceleration onto it, broke $1 million. And luckily I ended up getting acquired by Venus Swimwear, which was my first big acquisition, which was really cool. But I tested the market need first. Then I saw that it did solve a problem. And you might be thinking, well, what kind of problem would importing Brazilian swimwear, solve? That's when the business started to skyrocket. So we were just importing regular swimwear. And if anybody's old enough like me in their 50s or 60s to remember, especially ladies, back in the early 90s, the 80s, you literally got one size up top, one size on the bottom. So if you're a medium on the bottom, you had to buy the medium on top. And even if you were a medium and a medium, if you wanted purple solid bottoms and black and white polka dots on top, you couldn't get it. Well, luckily, one of my friends who was working for me kind of screwed up a bunch of SKUs, mix and match, and just started shipping the stuff. And that was really the first mix and match. And that's what caught the eye of Venus Swimwear. So that's what the value was for us, that we were solving a problem to where if a lady is a 36C or 36D up top and like a 00 on the bottom, they could mix and match those sizing. And they could also do polka dots and stripes and pineapples or black solid on top, purple on the bottom, whatever it was. That was our unique value proposition. Number three is a poor marketing strategy. What I mean by that is a lot of people that are, you hear, hey, do something that you're passionate about. And I agree with that. I don't do anything that I don't like. I'm not passionate about it, but I'm not going to jump in without knowing what my sales and marketing strategy is. And those two things go hand in hand. I got to give credit to Dan Tyre good friend of mine from one of the original employees at HubSpot, who really came up with the alignment of sales and marketing and brought up the term smarketing, right? So you need to have a smarketing strategy. You need to have a sales and a marketing strategy. And you think about it, when I decided to do this, it was just because I was staying with a family and I'm like, oh, hey, that stuff's pretty cool. And I got a couple of girlfriends, I could take some stuff home, and then they loved it. It was the same way that I got into the t-shirt business when I was 16 from Jay Jacoby at American Pacific T-shirts. I played in a junior am, which was like a golf pro-am with him in Los Angeles, and my mom was with me, and he gave me like 10 t-shirts to take home. And he's like, do you like basketball? I'm like, yeah, I love basketball. And I was a huge Laker fan. Kareem, Magic, Byron Scott, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, all these guys. And I got Jordan. That was cool. I got Barkley. I got Karl Malone. Nope, didn't care. John Stockton. Are you kidding me? I got all these shirts that I wouldn't wear. So instead of just trashing them, I sold them to my friends for like $10 a pop. I saw them a few months later. It gave me the opportunity to actually start selling shirts for them. That was one of my first venture when I was 16. I remember sitting down at the dining table, literally going over, like, I didn't know they were P&Ls at the time, but profit and loss and all that type of stuff. And my mom training me. But what I did have was a go-to-market strategy, right? I knew that I was going to take those first 100 shirts that Jay gave me, and I had two other friends. That's 33 shirts each. I went to one high school football game. Kevin Thomas went to another high school football game. Mike Knight went to another high school. I think Kevin went to BHS. Mike went to South. We all went to West High School, so I went to West and started selling the t-shirts. That was the marketing strategy. When we opened Wild Bill's Texas Smokehouse, I knew what the marketing strategy was going to be. I literally spent an extra, I think it was a couple of $1,000s on our sign. It was like a picture of Texas. It said Wild Bill's Smokehouse, and it had smoke to where we could have smoke from our smoker coming out of the top of the sign. That would attract people. One, not just because you can see it, but you can smell it. Go drive by a Burger King. I'm not a big fan of fast food or Burger King anymore. I was when I used to be really fat. But you see smoke coming out of Burger King, and you can smell the liquid smoke that they use on their burgers. That's part of the marketing strategy. Just like I was using AOL chat rooms for Belacqua bikinis and swimwear, right? All of these things, we need to have a marketing strategy. Even if you're in the short-term rental space like I am, and real estate investor, you need to have a marketing strategy. That's where most people fail in the short-term rental space, is they just list their properties on Airbnb and Vrbo and sit back and wait. Well, if you sit back and wait, boom, I'm going right fucking past you because I'm doing my buy, sell, trade group strategies. I've got my 200-day marketing funnel. I'm doing Facebook ads. I'm doing the things that I need to do to take the reins and find new customers and not waiting for people to come back to me, which leads me to number 4. That's how I beat you. That's how I beat you, the competition. There's a couple of things that go into beating the competition. Number 1 is speed. We cannot be slow. We cannot be getting ready to get ready. We have to make really, really quick decisions. And I'm not saying to rush or to hurry or, to go out there reckless and start a business, but speed is one of my number 1 attributes that I have to understand that people go fucking slow. And when it takes you 3 days to make a decision, I've already failed once or twice and I've moved on to the 3rd iteration and I'm hitting the ground running. And that's when you hear the term fail fast, it's 100% true. If you're failing slowly, that means you are slow to learn, because every new business is going to take iteration, and that's how you beat the competition. Speed, understanding your go-to-market strategy, literally going in and focusing on cash flow first. If I take this all the way back, we've gone through the first 4, right? If you go from 4 back to poor marketing strategy, back to no market need, all of those impact your lack of cash flow in number 1. But here's the big one. Taking a step back to number 1, the lack of cash flow. Most of you and I, when we do a startup, we don't pay ourselves. And that exacerbates the cash flow, because you think, oh, if I start generating more cash flow, then I can pay myself. Well, you should start paying yourself right off the bat. I mean, my man, Mike McAllowicz, good friend of mine, he wrote the book Profit First. Every new business owner, before you start your business, should read 2 books. Profit First, so you can understand how you need your banking structure and how you need to be paying the business and yourself. And number 2 is the E myth, the entrepreneurial myth, because that's how you get yourself out of being that technician that Michael Gerber talks about working inside the business versus on the business. And a lot of people say, oh, you got to work on your business. And that's 100% correct. And that ties into number 5, which is leadership. Most people that do startups, like little small businesses like I've done, and then try to grow them into big businesses, we weren't born, or we weren't educated. We weren't taught leadership skills. And what we default to is we default to management. And when you default to management, you are working in the business every single day, where the number 1 thing that we need to do is we need to put ourselves out of a job. Here's what I mean by that. Let's unpack this for a second. What I want to do with every single startup is I want to take the mundane tasks, the minutia, the day-to-day things that are really should be above my pay grade, and I need to train somebody and outsource those. It could be virtual assistants, it could be in-house, an employee, it could be a 1099, whatever it is. But that's really the mindset of doing that as quickly as possible, because the faster that I can extricate myself from the business, then I actually am creating a business. If I have to be there every single day, if I have the mindset that, oh, hey, Bobby can't do it as good as me, so I'm just going to fucking do it myself, or Melissa isn't as fast as me, so I'm going to do it because I can get it done twice as fast as her. It's our job as the leader to train them and to retrain them. And I used to be a really, really bad leader because I was stuck in the managerial role. I was stuck in that technician role from Inside the E-Myth that Michael Gerber talks about. And I would get so upset at the employees and so mad, and I would fire them. And because I expected them to do the job that I was doing, I expected them to have the same passion that I had. I expected them to have the ownership mentality that I have. And there's no way that you and I can expect our employees to have the same passion, have the same drive, put in 15-hour days, work as hard as we do. They're an employee. They have a different mentality. They're getting a check to be there 40 hours a week. They are not there to build the business, and they're helping you build the business so you can get wealthier, not them. There is a ceiling for every single employee, unless you create the incentive program that doesn't put a glass ceiling in. And in my opinion, one of the things I've learned, and really this was in the last 10 or 12 years of my entrepreneurial career, it wasn't early on, is the value of a disc profile test. I mean, knowing if somebody's like 100% DI and has like no S&C, understanding how somebody thinks, understanding how I'm going to communicate with them, and most importantly, what's going to motivate them. Every one of you as an entrepreneur should be running a DISC profile test at least step 2 in the interview process, definitely before you hire them. And you need to run them on your existing employees to see how the compatibility is going to be between new hire and your existing staff, to see how they need to communicate. What processes do you need to put in place for that new employee? How are you going to communicate with them? That is what is really critical, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to you and me as leaders. One of the things you've heard me use the term before as I go into bonus number 1 is price elasticity. One thing that I'll share with you, when we're doing a startup and we set our pricing, 99.9% of the time it's underpriced, because we don't have enough self-worth. The natural human inhibition is to underprice. So there's a gentleman named Jeff Walker. He created the product launch formula. He is like the online coaching and marketing godfather. And I remember the first time I went to his PLF, Product Launch Formula Live in Phoenix, I was sitting next to my friend Dave Gambrill, and he said, when you're pricing, whatever you think your pricing needs to be, even if you think that you're already the highest in the market, or you could be the lowest, you need to raise your pricing 25 to 30% on the first go around. So if I'm selling these logoed pins and I think they should be 30 cents, then I need to raise that pricing to like 35, 36, 39 cents. Now, I'm going to go do some analysis in the marketplace and see where my competitors are. I'm going to look at the quality when I'm doing market research. So we talked about, as we go through, and the first 4 mentioned a little bit about market research, but this is bonus number 2. You really can't generate more cash flow. You can't implement, really good dynamic pricing. What that is, that's stretching your pricing as far as it will go. Think about Stretch Armstrong, the guy that could stretch his arms way out. That's what we want to test and do with our pricing. We don't just want to arbitrarily pick a number or see what the competition is and price very similar to them, or just 2 or 3% above or 2 or 3% down. What if your product's way better? What if it's shinier? What if it's something like an iPhone compared to, the Trio or the BlackBerry when it came out? Steve Jobs knew he could crush. He knew he had a better product, and he knew he had better sales and marketing. Number 3 was sales and marketing. So if you have a great product and exceptional sales and marketing, and I don't even remember what a BlackBerry was, $299, and then Steve Jobs comes in at $600 for the first iPhone, can almost double the pricing. So that all ties into the leadership, because you are responsible for everything. That's where I went wrong as a bad manager and leader. I used to blame the employees. And then someone told me, Bill, it's your fucking fault. You have to accept the responsibility. Bill, you were a coach, right? I was a college golf coach, Division II program, playing a Division I schedule, finished in the top 5 at NCAA championships. 3 of the 4 years I was a coach. Did you blame your kids, or did you take the blame? Do you see Tom Brady blaming his defense when they lose? No, he takes the blame. Even if he throws 400 yards and 4 touchdowns and 0, interceptions, he's accepting that blame because he is the leader of that team. And you have to do the same thing for your pricing, for your sales, for your marketing, for your cash flow. for the mistakes that the employees make. You have to take that as a leader, which leads me to the next video. You can see as soon as I wrap this up, it's the qualities that all successful leaders have. All successful leaders possess these qualities. So do two things. One, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And two, click on that next video. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.